Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on European SMEs on the road to India, intellectual property, business opportunities, and challenges. My name is Nicoletta Favaretto. I'm Senior Project Officer at Eurochambers, but today I'm wearing the hat of the India IP SME Help Desk. This EU initiative provides free first-line assistance to European companies doing business with India or in India on how to protect, manage, and enforce their intellectual property rights. So today's webinar is organized by the India IPSME Help Desk together with the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and in collaboration with the Eurochambers and the business support to the EU-India Policy Dialogue projects. Before we start with our rich program, I wanted to give you some technical remarks. So we are live, the session is going to be recorded, and you will receive the recording and the PowerPoint presentation after the event via email. Also, you'll have the opportunity to ask the speakers questions via the chat. So please type your question via the chat box and we will make sure to reply to your question during the question and answer session. So without further delays, I'm gonna give the floor to our host, João Pedro Guimarães, Secretary General of the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So João, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you, Nicoletta. As Nicoletta said, my name is João Pedro Guimarães, and I'm the Secretary General of the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. First of all, I would like, of course, to welcome you all to today's webinar, which we have the pleasure of co-hosting with Eurochambers, with India IP SME Help Desk, and also with the support of business support to EU-India policy dialogues. As you know, the purpose of this webinar is to shed light on the business opportunities for EU companies in India while informing on the EU support aimed at European SMEs, namely in what regards the protection of intellectual property rights when doing business in India. And of course, to shed this light, we need people that know a lot about this subject. And so this is the case with our speakers that I want to thank personally. First of all, Joel Fernandes from Business Support to the EU-India Policy Dialogues, to Anna Onderkova and Nicoletta Favaretto from India IP SME Help Desk. Nicoletta will be also moderating. Thank you so much. A special words to Pedro Pinto from the company Vision Box, which is a member of our Chamber of Commerce and who will share with us his experience in doing business in India. And also finally to Dominique Buxin, who will be making the closing remarks. A special word to all of you. Thank you so much who are watching throughout the world, and this is really throughout the world. We have people in Portugal, in India, from Brazil, the USA, Poland, Hungary, Italy, Greece, the Netherlands, UK, and Finland. Thank you so much for being with us today. Two notes in particular. I want to say that, as most of you know, there will be a high meeting from leaders, leaders meeting on May the 8th here in Portugal. The leaders of the EU will be present in Porto, in the north of Portugal, and they will be meeting virtually via video conference with India's Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. On an historical note, it is interesting to remember or to recall that it was actually in 2000, so quite a few years ago, that during Portuguese presidency of the EU, that one of these meetings firstly took place. Since then, there's been 15 meetings so far, and all of them have been very, very helpful on enhancing the bilateral relationships between the EU and India. And we, of course, are very hopeful that this will be the case as well with this next meeting of May the 8th, and that relationships will improve even more. And for that as well, on a final note, just to tell you that Here at the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we are experts on the internationalization of companies. We do that. It's one of our core businesses, so to speak. And so there's a lot of experience. We've been doing about 16 missions a year all throughout the world. So if you are willing, and you should be, of course, if you are willing to visit India for business and you want to do business in India, please let us know. It will be a pleasure to work with you. So basically, this is it. Once again, thank you so much, all of you, to be here with us. We are sure that by the end of the day, this will be a very useful seminar and or webinar in this case. And this usefulness is, of course, the reason for us being here today. Thank you so much. And I'm passing the word now to Nicoletta. All the best to you all. Thank you.
Many thanks for these introductory remarks, Joao Pedro. Let's continue with our second speaker. The idea on our program today is to present you some information about the Indian market, business opportunities, and also the support offer from the EU. So for this, we invited Joel Fernandez, Project Lead Europe of the Business Support to the EU-India Policy Dialogues Project. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you.
And yes, the floor is yours.
Muito obrigada, Nicoletta. Bom dia, namaste, and welcome to my presentation on India. Thank you very much for having me here this morning. The question today for the entire presentation and the event is, are you ready for India? And what you will hear today is, what are the opportunities and challenges for you as an EU SME or business looking at entering the Indian market, and how the EU can support you in your endeavor or in your entry to the Indian market. My name is Joel Fernandez, and I'm the project lead for the business support to the EU-India Policy Dialogues Project, which is an EU-funded project. To tell you a little bit about the business support to the EU-India Policy Dialogues project, this project was a direct outcome of the last EU-India strategy on India, which was adopted in 2018. And in 2019, we launched this project with the endeavor or aim to increase the business involvement in strategic areas of policy dialogues and cooperation between the EU and India. The sectorial focus between these policy dialogues are in the sectors of energy, environment, climate change, ICT, and urbanization. The project has a website, which is www.euindiabusinesssupport.eu. Most of the work done under the project can be found at this website, so I would encourage you to take a look at it post the webinar. There are 3 consortium partners for this project: GFA Consulting based in Hamburg, the European Business and Technology Center based in New Delhi, which is the implementation partner of this project in India, as well as with Eurochambers, which is the Association of Chambers of Commerce and Industry based in Brussels. And these are the 3 consortium partners that are managing this project. Now, why India, and why you should be looking at India in the next 5 years, in a 5-year horizon or the short term? Well, as of 2020, the GDP of India was around 2.5 trillion euros, and the government of India is planning to increase that to 5 trillion by 2025. So we do see a lot of infrastructural changes, policy changes in order to increase the GDP of the country. As of today, India is the 3rd largest economy in terms of GDP, in terms of purchasing power parity. In terms of population, we already know that India has a huge population of around 1.3 billion people, but by 2025, we are going to reach 1.5 billion in terms of population. We also have a very young population between the ages of 28 and 30. As of 2025, that's the median of 29 years is what all the agencies have pegged India to be. And we also, because of the population being large, we have a large consumer economy where we rank 3rd in terms of the consumer economy, even right now. So in 2025, we will still remain 3rd as to what most of the reports have come out with these numbers. In terms of a startup ecosystem, It's the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. Just 2 months or a month ago, actually, we had a couple of unicorns that were launched in India. So that increased the number to 35 unicorns that are coming out from the different startups that are in India. And India is now 63rd out of 190 nations in the ease of doing report by the World Bank. So in the next 5 years, you will see that most of the reports that have come out showcase India in a forward or leaning trajectory for EU companies and international businesses to look at India. Given the fact that we are during a pandemic and we are making this presentation, I just wanted to share with you what the rating agencies or the ranking agencies have looked at India in terms of projections over the next 2 years. As you will see, in India, in 2019 and 20, we were around 4.2% GDP, and there was a drop in 2021. So this first quarter and the last quarters did see a drop in the GDP in terms of projections. But most of the ranking firms look at a very positive growth post the COVID situation. Of course, this report was done before the last crisis or the present crisis, in terms of the variant, which is now hitting India in a big way. So these figures may change post the projections after this particular pandemic situation which India is going through right now. So what is the support that the EU can offer to EU businesses that are looking at entering the Indian market? What we try to do is support you in your market entry, as well as what we try to do is support you while you are already in India. That's very important, because as an SME, entering the Indian market is one thing, but finding success in India can be also very challenging. So the EU supports you not only to enter India, but also while you are doing business in India, because we want you to succeed in India. So we have the European Excellence in India program, which is a task force of EU businesses that focus on clean technologies and sustainability across the value chains, and whereby we give them a lot of visibility through our projects, to the EU India funded projects, which I will talk to you a little bit about. We also give them visibility during our events that we do. There are joint tenders between the EU businesses that are already in India that can collaborate. We have different clusters that we have set up so that EU businesses that are already in India can collaborate with other EU businesses in India and win certain tenders and projects in India. We also have the India Readiness Toolkit, which I will share more information about in the next few slides, talking to you about how do you prepare yourself before you enter the Indian market. So it's a self-diagnostic tool to check whether you are actually ready for India. We have also the European Technology and Engagement Cell, which is more of a platform which is linked to one of the India water projects, where you can actually showcase your technologies in advance to an Indian audience, where they can see what your product or technologies are in advance of you entering the Indian market. We also feel that finance and money is a big challenge for SMEs, because they have when they're planning to enter India in the Indian market, you need to think long term. And sometimes finance can be a big challenge. So we have the European Finance Group. We also have the EU India Corporate Forum, Finance Forum, that we have set up so that we can support SMEs on how to raise capital in India by funding them in terms of entering the Indian market. And finally, it's like I mentioned to you, we also support EU businesses in India. So we have the European Economic Group, which is more involved with policy advocacy, whereby we have these companies talk to their bilateral chambers of commerce. And the European Economic Group is a group of chambers of commerce that are in India, the EU chambers, whereby we group every 2 months, and we understand what are those market challenges faced by the EU companies in India, and we try to submit a submission to the Indian government on the challenges faced by EU companies in India, so we can do some kind of advocacy for them to mitigate the challenges that these companies could face in India. Now I'll move to the next part of my presentation, which is talking about the opportunities in India for EU businesses. Just to give you a little snapshot of where we are in trade and investment in terms of numbers, as you will see, India and the EU in terms of trade, the EU is India's largest trading partner with over 100 billion euros in terms of goods and services in terms of trade. It's also one of the largest investors in terms of FDI outflow. So 22% of total FDI inflows into India comes from the EU. But more importantly than these numbers, what we see is that the EU and India are natural partners. If you look at the current situation going on in India with the pandemic, I think the EU has really stepped up its game in terms of its relationship with India by supporting India at this very crucial time. So if you have been reading, there are several member states that have come forward to support India in supporting it with oxygen cylinders and medication. So there's a lot that the EU is doing in India over and above trade and investment. Where are these opportunities for you as an EU business to enter India? So what we've tried to do with the EU and India is that the EU has set up certain projects, which are EU funded projects, to support EU businesses to enter the Indian market. If you come as a company from Portugal or from anywhere in the EU and you come to India, it's very important that you find success in India. So what the EU did is already create certain projects where we can put you and make you join these projects. So that way you are already entering the Indian market with a project in hand, and you can do business in India. It will be easier for you to do business in India. So the first project is the Clean Energy and Climate Partnership Project. I'm also the key expert for this particular EU-India funded project, which is also part of Eurochambers, which is a consortium partner in this particular project. What we try to do is focus on the renewable energy sector. The EU has very good and innovative technologies in the renewable energy sector. And those are the kind of companies that we want to bring to India, whether it is solar energy, whether it is smart grid, whether it's hydrogen. There are real-time opportunities under the EU-India Clean Energy and Climate Partnership Project, which are available. And we would like for you, in case you are a company in this particular sector, to contact us, and we'll put you in touch with the consortium of EU and Indian companies that are working in this particular project, and you can join them. So what happens with SMEs, you might have one part of the entire solution that can be offered. And what we try to do is plug you into this consortium of EU and Indian businesses under a project where you can get into that project and do business in India on that particular project. Similarly, in the water sector, we have the India-EU Water Partnership that focuses on supporting India in terms of cleaning its rivers, in terms of water sanitation, in terms of water monitoring. There are different projects under the EU-India Water Partnership that is required currently in India, as water is really scarce. So we are looking at potable water solutions, we are looking at water monitoring solutions, wastewater treatment. So these are the kind of solutions and technologies from the EU that we are trying to bring to India and work with the EU-India Water Partnership. Similarly, in terms of ICT standardization, we're talking about artificial intelligence, 5G, data privacy. Companies in the EU have these kind of solutions and technologies, which India really wants. And this is the opportune time, because these projects are funded by the European Union, where we ensure that all of the companies in these consortiums are from the EU only, because India is also looking at the EU for certain solutions. And these are the reasons why the EU and India have these joint declarations, which we call policy dialogues. The India-EU Urban Partnership is focusing on smart cities in India. India is trying to create 100 smart cities, as you all know, and most of you may know. And the EU-India Urban Partnership is looking out for intelligent transport systems, e-mobility, electric mobility, that is, we are looking at how do we create our, terms of smart parking. There are different solutions that India is looking out for in the next few years, and that's what we are looking out for. We've also got an EU-India twinning city initiative, and the city of Porto is twinned with one of the cities in India, so that the solutions from the city of Porto in Portugal can be used in one of the cities in India. So these are the kind of relationships, these are the kind of projects that we have under the EU-India Urban Partnership. And then finally, as resources are scaling down, or there is a deficiency in resources in India in terms of natural resources, we have the Resource Efficiency Initiative that the EU can guide India in terms of managing its natural resources. So these are the 5 projects that we have in India. If in case you are a company and you are listening to this webinar and from Portugal or from anywhere in the EU, do contact us. We'll be very happy to have your company join one of these projects. To go ahead in terms of the opportunities in India, as I mentioned to you earlier, the ease of doing business in India has, of course, drastically changed. If you look at the slide, you will see from 130 just 5 years ago, we are at 63 as of 2020. So there has been a gradual but yet constant increase in terms of ranking in betterment, in terms of betterment for India. So there's a lot of policy regulations which have changed for the better. Most of the companies that we used to support earlier used to say India is a very challenging market. There's a lot of corruption in India. So what the government has done is made everything digital. It's created regulations and policies to ensure that investments from international investments or foreign investments are easier for you as a company to do business in India. In other rankings, in terms of innovation, India is also now an innovation hub for most of these technology clusters that we have set up in India. These are clusters which are mostly into agri-tech, deep tech, water tech. There are a lot of clusters that are already existing in India where the EU companies can work and do business in India. To talk about a little bit about the newer markets or the newer sectors, the fintech industry is doing extremely well in India. Like I said, most people say, when you come to India, you'll see almost everyone with a smartphone. So most of these fintech payment platforms are doing extremely well in India. And a lot of the EU businesses in the fintech industry are already in India and doing pretty well for themselves. In terms of floating solar, this is another clean technology area where there is an opportunity for a 300 gigawatt solar floating panel opportunity or system that India is looking out for. So if in case you are a company in the solar sector, do contact us. We can plug you in directly into the Clean Energy and Climate Partnership Project, which is focusing on floating solar as well. The rest of the statistics, you will get the slides, so you can go into more detail. In terms of the ICT sector, as you all know, most of the Indians work in the ICT sector all across the world. In India itself, we are the second largest exporter of ICT services. And what our Prime Minister says, I would like to share with you the quote which I put here on my slide, which talks to you about the 4D approach, which is democracy. India is one of the largest democracies in the world. We have a demography of a very young population. There is a huge demand because of the population being so huge, and we have a rising middle class. So when you have a rising middle class, there is a huge consumption that people would like to buy the latest gadgets, the latest smartphone, the latest cars, the newest technologies. As well as we have a very diverse population, whether it is religion, whether it's language, so we have a huge diversity as well in the country, whereby even as a company, you might want to tap into or bring your technologies or solutions and your business to enter this market and scale. Finally, in terms of food processing, this is a newer sector which is doing extremely well in India. It's also a food and food packaging hub, I would call it, or a food processing hub now with India. India is doing extremely well in exporting food all across the globe. But in terms of food processing, there are a lot of Italian companies and EU businesses that are now looking at India in a big way. So if in case you are a Portuguese company, again, in the food processing India, there is a huge opportunity for you. With that, I would like to share with you a video which will be played right now, just to recap on the opportunities in India for you. Now I will come to the last part of my presentation, which focuses on the India Readiness Kit. So now that you've seen the opportunities in India, let's get you ready for India. So what we try to do is create a diagnostic tool. We worked with a lot of chambers of commerce, thanks to Euro Chambers and its network, where we checked with the chambers of commerce what exactly their businesses face when they come to India. What are those challenges they need to know in advance before coming to India? And we created a quiz, which is a 30-minute quiz that allows you to check whether you are ready for India. And I'll talk to you a little more about this quiz. So it is a diagnostic tool that focuses on several modules that I will share with you about. But what we try to do is make it a fun way of learning. So when you take this quiz, you will get the right answer on what you should be doing. In case you get the wrong answer, you've put in the wrong answer. We also try to make sure that you evaluate yourself to see whether you are 40% ready, 80% ready, or 100% ready for India. So it gives you a little evaluation, as well as what would be the best practices that you need to do in advance. So the module has an assessment and evaluation and a learn part of the module. We focus on 5 modules, a general business module, talking about what is the cultural norms in doing business in India. So how you do business in Europe is very different from how you do business with Indians and in India. There is a relationship approach, which is very important. There's a trust approach, which is also very important. So these little, tricks, I would call it, a little trick of the trade, is very important for you to know in advance to entering India. How do you raise finance and capital in India? What are the areas that you can reach out to? Which are the people that you can contact in terms of the EU, in terms of finding money or finding finance in India? How do you hire people in India? How do you create your teams? Where do you approach consultants in terms of hiring people in India? What are the labor laws in India? So we have a people module that will talk about employment and HR and human resources. And then we have a product module talking about labeling. It talks about how do you export your product to India? What are the landing costs and what are the taxes that you need to know? And then finally, the IPR session, which Nicoletta and Hannah will talk to you more about through the India IP SME Help Desk. But under the module as well, under the India Readiness Kit, we have a few questions that you can answer in terms of just to make sure that you know what are those regulations in setting up your patent in India or your trademark in India or your copyright in India. What are those things you need to know in advance before you come to India? Because if you are an EU SME and you come to India, you will get overwhelmed with all the necessary rules and regulations and laws. So we try to keep you ready in advance before you enter the Indian market. With that, I would like to show you a final video on the India Readiness Kit and how you can access the India Readiness Kit through the website of the EU-India Policy Dialogues project. So while you have seen as to how you can use the website to come to the project, what you will see as the landing page is over here. We ask you for very basic information. Please remember that all the information collected is as per GDPR guidelines. So we ask you to just enter the name of your company as well as your name. You can be anonymous and also take this quiz in advance to prepare, to just check whether you are ready for India. So just to give you an understanding, if you are looking at taking this quiz as a EU SME, we have different modules I told you about. What you do is you have few options that you can click on where you feel which is the right answer, and you keep taking the quiz. I will go very quickly over the next few slides because I don't want to go overboard in terms of my time for presentation. But when you take the quiz, you will have enough time to take a look and see what are those questions that are relevant for you. Whether you are allowed to sell your goods in India, and how do you plan to enter the Indian market, whether you have already contacted your Chamber of Commerce, or whether you have any other plans in mind, and then they will give you the right answer as well. We all have a business quiz that focuses on what are the language geographies in India, the things like that. So it's a very fun way of learning. Now, at the end of taking the quiz, you will get a score. That does not mean that the score is it will just give you an understanding or an indication as to where you are. And you will also get a report that will come to you by email. So when I was taking this quiz to make the presentation, I made sure I failed so that way you get to see how we have supported you in terms of the right answers. In case you take the quiz, you will also get a best practice. So when you take the quiz, it's very important for you to learn from taking the quiz. So we'll give you the best practices that you need to follow before you enter the Indian market. It's a color-coded ranking of your responses, whether you're correct, you're wrong, or not quite right. So we give you a lot of leeway to take as to see where you are in entering the Indian market. And then again, you will get a drop down like this that you can see where you are. And then when you click on the plus sign, you will be able to get more information. With that, I wanted to share with you on the India Readiness Kit. And then finally, at the end of my presentation now, I would encourage you to take a look at our website, the EU India Business Support.eu website. You'll get all the information on the work that we are doing, as well as on the future activities of the program, of the project. And do follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. We have a lot of activities that we post out there. And then finally, in case you are interested in joining us in terms of some of our activities, well, on the 5th, which is literally tomorrow, we have this second EU Urban Forum focusing on smart cities that are created in India. If in case you would need more information, you're more than welcome to contact the Chamber of Commerce in Portugal, where we will share more information on, or you can contact me at my email address, which I will share with you a little later on. And of course, with regards to the EU-India Leaders Summit, we are working very closely with the Indian government as well as with the EU in terms of those discussions. We will be doing something post the summit as well. And of course, you are more than welcome to join us at our other activities. In case you need to contact me, my email address is fernandez@ebtc.eu. Thank you very much for having me here. And I will hand it over now to Nicoletta.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joel, for this very interesting presentation on the tools that are available for SMEs if they want to enter the Indian market, and discover also if they are ready to entering the Indian market. So as you've seen from Joel's presentation, one of the chapter of the India Readiness Kit was actually intellectual property. So here today, we want to present you the services of the India IP SME Help Desk, and also to allow you to navigate the IP landscape in India. So a little bit on the help desk. The help desk has been created in November 2020. This is an EU initiative funded by the COSME program, and the implementing partners of the consortium are the University of Alicante coordinator, Eurochambers, EURIS, and the European Business Technology Center, EBTC, in India. So you will see on your screen now the slides. We can tell you a little bit what we can do for you. So intellectual properties are one of the main business assets of a company. Companies often forget that they have intangible assets such as trademark, patents, design, and so on. And the help desk wants you to support you in your internationalization strategies towards India by providing you with free of charge first-line confidential assistance on intellectual property protection, management, and enforcement. Our services are for free, and they are addressed to European SMEs, so SMEs from the EU and from the associated countries that are already present in the Indian market. They have commercial relations with Indian counterparts, or they're willing to do so, and maybe to be engaged in research and development activities in India. One of our main, let's say, and core business is the helpline. So we have an Ask the Expert service where companies can send us all their queries via email, via our website, or contact us by phone on, for example, how to register simple trademark in the country, but also how to file for patent application, how to protect the results of the research and development activities. Does it make sense to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and so on. So this is our core service. What we also do, we organize information session and training session for companies, as the one that we organize today. So for this, I invite on our virtual floor Anna Onderkova. She's our IP expert today, and she will talk you more about intellectual property in the India market. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you, Nicoleta. So my name is Nicoleta Serhana Onderkova. I am head of IP at EBTC, but in this capacity, I wear the hat, as Nicoleta said, of IP SME Help Desk. So I prepared a short presentation for you. Before I start, I just would like to ask some of you if anybody who is listening to us right now has any IPR. And if so, you can write it in your chat. As a matter of fact, as per the European Patent Office, which recently undertaken a survey, only 9% of European SMEs actually have IPR. If we talk about patent, if we talk about trademark or industrial design. So this is very low number, and that would obviously impact companies when they try to internationalize to different markets. Just yesterday or last week, there was a webinar for EU SMEs, EU startups about internationalization strategy. And one of the sentences which was said there was that there is no right internationalization strategy. However, there is definitely one right IPR strategy. It is definitely very advisable to prepare before you enter any foreign market. It doesn't have to be necessarily just India. As you might know, IPR rights are territorial in nature. It means that if you file patents or a trademark or industrial design in your home country, being Portugal, UK, wherever, that particular right is valid only there. So the moment you want to internationalize elsewhere, that particular patent protection will not be valid, and you are in a risk that somebody in somewhere else, be it India, China, wherever, might copy your product, your mark, etc., etc., and you might have very little to do to stop them, right? So definitely before we enter India or any market, we think, what is my right? What is my product? What is my trademark? And accordingly, you can think about how to protect it in that particular market. So number two, as I said, yes, protecting before you enter. Just very recently, I had a call with a European SME, which wants to enter in India, and they have a patent in Europe. Because when a few years ago, when they were thinking which markets they might enter at the time, they were not thinking about India as an option. Obviously now, a few years down the line, they realize that India is indeed market for their particular product. But now, since, as I said, it's a territorial right, patents and industrial design are very time bound. So you would have very specific time frame in which you can file patent application in India. And because they missed it, they have very little options what to do to prevent their competitors from, copying the particular product. One of the options is to innovate the current product and file a new patent application or file a new design application. But that, of course, comes with the cost. So obviously thinking before you coming to any jurisdiction, or, if you have any product, it just doesn't mean necessarily India, it can be anywhere, it can be any other European country, it can be China, it can be Latin America. Wherever you think you might be expanding in the future, you should be also thinking about your IPR protection. Also, what I'd like to mention here, which people sometimes don't know, that at any point of the time, if you feel that, okay, I think I'm going to go to China or India, I file a patent, and 3-4 years down the line, I realize that I, for whatever reason, don't want to be in that particular jurisdiction anymore, I can always stop paying the fees and drop that particular IPR right. So that always give you flexibility that any point of the time, you can actually stop paying to that particular patent office for maintenance of that right. But it's always better safe than sorry to file it first. Number 3, which I'd like to mention, where are we? Yes. I think you are all businessmen, you are all SMEs which have been in the market for quite some time, and I'm sure that all of you are aware of your competitors. IPR is no different. when I have an invention, if I have a trademark, if I have an industrial design, and I want to file application for that particular right, I need to do my due diligence to find out whether that particular innovation mark is elsewhere. Sometimes we think that, okay, I invented something and there is no way that somebody else on the other side of the world could have the same idea. But that's unfortunately not the case. So one level to it is that I need to find out that I will be not infringing on somebody else's rights when I enter another country, or to just see what my competitors are doing. As a matter of fact, IP data, particularly patents, are really great source to see what your competitors are doing, in what field they are streamlining their research and development, etc. There are a lot of free tools which you can avail. For instance, European Patent Office, they have ISPASenet database where you can find out if you put name of your competitor, you would see where they have filed patent applications. And there is also a World WIPO tool where you can also exactly see the same thing. So there are a lot of tools which would enable you to see what are other people doing, not just to be aware of your competition, but also to make sure that you do your due diligence before you enter different jurisdictions, so you yourself prevent unintentional infringement. Right. Next one is, yeah. So I assume that we are all European SMEs, and we will have either we have or are we thinking about filing for a trademark, for a patent, utility model, or whatever else in your home country. It is also advisable. There was very recently a study done by the European Patent Office. Actually, European Patent Office is very active in linking the business benefits to your IPR. When they found out that if you have an IP right, let's say file in your home country as a national patent, your growth is, let's say, 17%. Whereas if you file as a European patent, your growth will be, let's say, 20%. I'm just using random numbers. But what I want to indicate, they actually did their research when they found out that by filing national IPR, national rights, you would actually benefit from it economically as well. And the same comes with the combination of the rights, you know. So if you file for your patent and for your trademark, if you file for your patent and the utility model or industrial design. So with the combination of the right in the different jurisdictions, you can make sure that your intangible assets are very well protected. As I said, there would be, as I don't know how IP savvy is the audience of this webinar, so I made the presentation very generic, but there would be different routes which you can take. The conventional filing is that if you file your application, let's say in Portugal, you would have 1 year to file a patent application, also in India or in China or elsewhere. This is for companies which feel that they might not want to spend too much money and they're 100% sure that, you know, a few years down the line, you are not going to go to any other jurisdictions where you could use your, let's say, patent or industrial design. If you decide that you might want to explore more markets with your particular right, you can choose what we call PCT route. This is, I mean, it's many times incorrectly interpreted as a world patent, but essentially is the international filing. With one application, you can enter, I think there is like around 170 countries. And obviously the patent would be validated in each country. This route particularly will also give you more time. So if you file PCT application, then you will have, I think, 31 months time to decide into which countries you can go and in which countries you can file your application. So generally speaking, if you think about filing patent in more than 2 countries, or more than 3, it's also advisable to use PCT because it will save up the cost at the end. Madrid Protocol is for filing trademark. So same story, if you file trademark in your home country through Madrid Protocol, you can file a number of trademarks in a different jurisdiction with a single application. You can imagine as the gateways to various jurisdictions. So I just wanted to give an example of, of examples which rights can be protected in India. So India is slightly different, for example, to Europe, because in Europe we do not have options of utility models which would protect minor innovations. India does not have provision for the utility models. Hence, if you want to patent or if you want to protect your innovation, it has to be through the patents. Some might ask what actually patents protect. You know, patents protect any device, elements, drugs, compounds, also the processes, methods of making it, etc., etc. So it's anything to do with technology, you can say. In one product, let's say, if you have a product, you can have a number of patent applications which will be protecting different elements to it. Let's say if you look at a mobile phone, for instance, you can have 10, 15 patents in connection with it. There can be patent for Bluetooth, there are patent for the screen, there is patent for, I don't know, a sound system, whatever it is. Yeah, so it's just understanding that particular technology, particular improvement in the technology would be protected by patent. Industrial design, it's everywhere around us. So it protects shapes of items, jewelry, furniture, phones, automotive. New upcoming field for the industrial design protection is, let's say, medical devices, etc., etc. What is important to understand, the industrial design protects only the visual features. It does not protect functionality. For functionality, we have patents. Trademarks, I mean, everybody knows this is the logos, different names, etc., etc. And in India, you can also have a protection of this, they call it untraditional trademark, which is smell, sound, color. I'm sure you all know, I always give example of Yahoo, this Yahoo, you know, this very famous sound. So this actually trademark protected. Copyright. India is signatory of a Berne Convention, which means that if you, whatever you publish in your home country should get automatic protection in India as well. However, if you happen to find out that there is an infringement happening on your copyright protection, you have to have copyright registration first before you can go to court. So anyway, it is advisable to file copyright protection. It applies to books, songs, paintings, also software, films and musicals. It's very important to point out, I mean, in Europe, software is also not protected by the patent, and the same cases in India. That can be also only done by the copyright protection. I'm gonna go to the aspect of software / hardware combination, because this is one of little bit of challenges which we have in India in comparison to, let's say, Europe. Other rights, I'm just going to go quickly through it, is geographical indication. This is for food items. We all know Swiss chocolate, feta cheese, champagne. So this would be areas, geographical areas which would be known for particular product. And listed lies the trade secrets. So trade secrets is also a very useful tool for protection that can apply to your customer database, drawing, let's say, receipts, algorithm. The most famous trade secret is for Google algorithm. They apparently keep tweaking it, so nobody can crack it. Other one is obviously all known Coca-Cola and KFC chicken, the butter on the chicken. So these are the known trade secrets. Would like to mention here is that India does not have specific legislation for trade secrets. The trade secrets are protected through various different laws. So presumably, if you have a customer database which gets leaked by your employee or gets leaked by a third party, then you would have to use a specific right, like let's say loss of confidentiality. So there will be different laws which you can use to enforce your right. However, the most important thing to be able to protect your right or go to the court is that you have to keep the information secret. And you, as a holder of the right, you have to prove to the court Did you make a sufficient effort to keep it secret? Yeah? So this is also quite interesting to see. So it's not just I put, a simple password and that's it. So there have to be substantial effort exhibited by the holder to show that the right was protected. So I'd like to just quickly mention about patents because I would say they are more specific in India than elsewhere as opposed to other rights. India or the Indian IPR ecosystem had traditionally, as some of you might think, a very bad reputation. Till very recently, there was a general perception that it takes forever to file a patent, and even though if you file it, it takes forever to grant it, and you cannot enforce it. I would like to say that this has changed, and that's not the case anymore. So since 2016, government of India has taken a number of steps. They appointed the Indian Patent Office have employed 500 new examiners, and these days the speed of the grants are on the par with Western countries. However, there are few requirements which you as a company thinking about coming to India to have on your mind, because that might have impact on whether you can patent that particular innovation, or it can have cost-related implications for you. So one of the first thing which you have to check in India is before you file application whether your invention is even patentable. As you might know, every country, when they draw their patent laws, they would have a certain subjects which would not be applicable for patent protection. One is the military use, it can be various things. I mentioned already that, for example, software is not patentable in India. Method of treatment is not patentable. So let's say if you're in healthcare and you come up with a device for treating humans or animals, you are able to patent the device, but not method of using it, right? So it is always good to investigate when you have your innovation, whether that particular, as we call it, subject matter is actually eligible for patent protection. Also, for companies which work with biodiversity, you will be required to apply for permission and the National Biodiversity Authority if your innovation uses biological resources from India. Again, this is something which has improved over the years, and these days it's more kind of it takes 3 to 6 months depending on the procedure. So it's not the issue which used to be in the past. Another points to bear in mind is during processing of your patent application. So Indian Patent Office will require you to submit information about your foreigner filings. Every patent agent, whoever you engage to work with you here in India, will of course remind you to do that. Why I'm bringing it up here? Because that will again increase the cost of your application. So let's say you have a family of, I don't know, 5 patents elsewhere. So every time there is a change in the status, you are supposed to inform Patent Office that that change in, let's say, China or Japan, wherever has happened. And always at the moment you engage a patent agent and they submit a particular update, they will of course charge you for that. So this is just to be aware that this requirement is there and it will have a cost implications for you. Least and last is what happens after patent is granted. In many jurisdictions, the moment that your grant happens, you are only required to pay your annuity fees for another 10 to 15 years, depending how long obviously it took for the Patent Office to grant your patent. Unfortunately, this is not the case in India. So Indian patent law requires every patent holder to submit what we call working statement, which says every year you have to submit the working statements to see whether this particular innovation has been exploited in India. They do require some additional details, for instance, how much of the particular product has been sold, etc., etc. Again, a lot of companies feel that it's leak of confidential data. And again, a good patent agent will guide you how to fill the form, how to comply with the requirement without, you know, giving away too much information. However, again, as I said, it's obligatory. It's a obligatory requirement, and again, it does add to the cost, not just paying the attorneys to do that, but also for your internal resources, you know, to kind of get the information together, which they actually require. And least and last, as we said, you know, every time you enter any jurisdictions, you know, you have to, you know, have at least a basic understanding, you know, what is the compliance of the contracts, what is the legislation about. And India has a very specific in many ways, and their laws, you know, as I said, for many cases there is not you know, uniform legislation, like as I said, for the trade or for the trade secret, also for counterfeiting, you know, to, if let's say somebody copies your product or your trademark, again, there would be different laws which you can use to stop people. So there is not a uniform way how to approach it. And that becomes sometimes very challenging. So this is just shortly from me. If you, of course, have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. And yeah, this is the details of the help desk. So I don't know whether I just check the chat. I am not sure if there are any comments.
Thank you, Hannah, for providing this overview. There are a lot of information actually, and I'm sure that, of course, companies that are following us live, they have their own question, their own case, their own particular story. So what we actually, and what I would like to convey, the message I would like to convey is to contact us. I mean, we reply in a very fast way. Within 3 working days, you can present your case and be sure that this will be treated in a very confidential way. And of course, once we have the contents and background information of your particular case, then everything, I think, would be clearer and maybe also easier, you know. And of course, this is a particular market, but of course, we have our own experts that are available there for you. So thank you again, Anna, and then let's see in the Q&A session if there are any question for you. So today the session was organized more as a journey. You know, the first session was on business opportunities, on the support that is available there. Then we focused a lot on intellectual property, and again, showing that there's someone supporting you in your internationalization strategy. And as a last step, we wanted to have a real case of a company that decided to enter the Indian market. So today we have Mr. Pedro Pinto, Head of Global Business Development at Vision Box, who will share the experience of the companies working with, and also the challenges that the company has faced during the journey to India. Welcome, Pedro.
Good morning. I hope my screen is visible. Apologies about my voice. So I will just make a small presentation about how did we end up doing business in India and our process to reach there. So we are a Portuguese SME based in Portugal. And we work on biometrics, mainly on biometrics applied to airports. And we developed our hardware and our software. So this is important because we had to be sure that our design in terms of hardware and our software are IP protected. So we have inside the company, we have a team that works inside our legal department that focus in protecting worldwide our patents, our design, and our software. So I advise all European SMEs, as it was shared today, before they go to the market, to make sure that they do due diligence and protect their IP. So our main market is aviation, and this is important to mention to understand the business case and why we decide as a European SME to look into India. So we have offices, or we had already offices all around the world, and we end up having an office in India, in Bangalore, as a result of our journey to make business in India. So our journey starts back in 2010, where we had the first contact with the Indian market, but it was opportunistic, it was ad hoc, we didn't have a plan, and from 2010 to 2016, not much happened. And then in 2016, we decided to come back to the Indian market with a clear plan, a dedicated team, and with the clear long-term ambition that there was a business opportunity in India, and we dedicate resources to study the market and to take the opportunity forward. So as a result, in 2018, we signed our first contract in India. The contract, or the size of the contract, justified that we open an office and create a team based out of India. And since then, we have been growing on the Indian market. In our process of studying the market, we internally, the Indian market seemed quite challenging. 1.3 billion citizens, 28 states, 22 different languages. So we put ourselves the question, where should we start? So I think the SMEs should not be afraid of these numbers. They should try to focus on the region, on the market, on their product, and start from there. And in our first interaction, it came to mind a saying from John Robinson, which says, whatever you can rightly say about India, the opposite is also true. So the size is so big that can be scary for a SME to try and to invest. But because the size is so big, also the number of opportunities, they are also big. Some of the challenges that we face, it is there's a lot of bureaucracy. Joel mentioned that they are improving, and that is true. Visible digital improvement in terms of processes can be seen, but still European SMEs needs to be ready, to be patient, to have some of the process not being the same all the time, still a bit of paper base, but it is something that the Indian government is trying to improve. And since we start our office there until now, we can see that there is improvement coming on this direction. So in our specific case, and that's why I want to mention that our specific core area is airports and aviation. When we analyzed the market, we saw that the civil aviation market in India is become to be the third largest in the world by 2024. The domestic operation, it is already the third largest in the world. And currently there are 125 operational airports, and the growing rate of passengers in India has been growing double digit since 2016. So this was the trigger that pushed us to look into India. I'm sure that a lot of European SMEs, if they analyze the potential of the market on their specific product, and Joel has given some examples at the beginning of the session in terms of these different areas, it is definitely a market that European SMEs should look at, should not be frightened about the size, and I think the opportunities are there. I also think that European SMEs should contact their local chamber of commerce, should contact the European agencies that are providing support for expansion of European companies. And we think that definitely it is worthwhile to look into the market and to invest in this market. So our first project was in Bengaluru. As you know, Bengaluru is the IT capital of India. And as a Portuguese software company, we were able to win an international public tender for the project on the third largest airport in India. So I usually say that we could not have chosen a more competitive market sector than ICT. And even we went to the IT capital of India, where most of the world's software is developed by the very high-skilled Indian software developers. And as an European SME, we are able to succeed. So I think this is the proof for all European SMEs that are trying to expand, that it is possible to do successful business in India. There is a market, and that the size or the complexity or diversity of the country should not be a blockage, should be seen as an opportunity. And we are, our Vision Box, our company is a live example that it is possible to succeed on this market. Some recommendations from real experience. I think that because of the size of the market, I think patience and perseverance is key. I think that the business plan that the companies will design should have a 2 to 4 year term. And I think plan always for the long term is very, very important. I don't think the European SMEs should think that in 6 months they could already start to sell. It is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So perseverance is very important. When you go to India for business meetings, it is very important that on your business card you have a proper job title. I mean that if you have a PhD, if you are PMP certified, if you have a master's degree, don't be shy to use that next to your name. From my experience, Indian culture values your investment on education, and that is important when you're trying to meet C-levels or you're trying to meet people with strong management positions. Do your research, very important. Maybe a product that you have could be successful in Delhi, but it could not be successful in Bengaluru. So research and time and effort is really important for you to try to maximize your investment and to focus in finding the right channel, the right partner, and the right product. I also found very useful to not to try and do the plan for the Indian market just by yourself. We found very important to contact local tax advisors, accountancy advisors, legal teams. Protecting the IP is very important. So our team of our legal department in Portugal spend a lot of time getting advice and prepare the proper way before us to enter into the market. We also find very useful to have someone on the team that speaks the language. So we start with a local partner, then we open our office and we have a full team there working for us. And once you decide to expand, don't limit yourself to the capital, to Delhi. There's a lot to be done in India. There's a lot of states where you can travel and try to find the best product. So when you plan a business trip to India, be ready to travel to other states. And last but not least, investing in building relationships at all levels of the hierarchy and looking for the long term. I think it's key to be able to succeed. If anyone has some other questions, I'm happy to connect offline. The presentation will be shared alongside with my contacts. And my apologies for the state of my voice. I hope that I was able to provide some real experience. And my last note is that India should be seen by European SMEs as a market that is definitely worthwhile to invest and to try and create business opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pedro, for sharing your experience with us and also for providing very useful tips, inputs, and recommendation. I think it's always very important to hear from businesses, already on the ground that had some past experience in India. So I don't know if some of you in the audience has some question either for Mr. Pinto, Mr. Fernandez, and Mrs. Onderkova. Okay, no. If not, I will give the floor to Dominic Buxan, Head of International Trade and Foreign Policy at Eurochambers, for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Nicoletta, and I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
And I will just be brief after all the information that has been said. And let me also express our gratitude to the co-organizers here, the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and of course the India IP SME Help Desk for helping us put together this webinar today. As Eurochambers, of course, one of our core missions in the international arena is to open doors for our companies, especially our SMEs, and make sure that they're aware of the opportunities that foreign markets provide for them, and that they, like we did today, receive all the support they need in terms of to internationalize their business, including, of course, through EU activities and policies. And we do that through advocacy here in Brussels with the EU institutions, but also through many concrete activities and EU-funded projects that we implement in almost all corners of the world, and including, of course, with India, which has been a core focus of our attentions for many years now, especially in the area of clean technology, but increasingly also in the wider context of business support schemes for SMEs, and of course, IP protection, which we have heard a lot about today. And I think IP is really a crucial topic for us as a European economy. One of our strengths is, of course, lies in our ability to innovate. So protecting our innovations and know-how is essential for our competitive position on the world stage. And I'm very convinced that this seminar has given you some useful information, tips, and tools to better plan your business engagement with India and know also how your innovations can be protected. Now, I think in our experience, the good thing about doing events with India is that we always have a full house and a lot of interested companies who are eager to tap into one of the world's fastest and growing dynamic markets. And I think it has been already alluded to, 1.3 billion consumers. And that is really a world full of opportunities, but also for challenges for European companies. So I think this is why it's so important. We do these seminars like the one today, so you get all the information you need, you listen to experiences of fellow entrepreneurs and business, and that you know all about the support schemes that are available to you to help you make your business endeavor a real success. And of course, this seminar is also very timely, as at the end of the week, on the 8th of May, we will have the much-awaited EU-India Summit. And with India, of course, being a key policy priority of the current Portuguese presidency of the Council. And of course, what better country than Portugal to lead this discussion at European level, given it was Portuguese sailors who were one of the first to really trade with India. And now under the leadership with Portugal, we have the chance to really deepen our EU-India strategic partnership to address common challenges, and they're first and foremost, of course, in helping each other fight the really deadly COVID-19 pandemic, which is sadly hitting India in such a terrible way these days, but really also to try to inject new ambition to our economic cooperation. And so it's really to make life easier for you, the entrepreneurs, in helping to restart the negotiations for a trade and investment agreement between the EU and India. But while these agreements would certainly greatly benefit all businesses, we have the estimates are out there that it could add up to 8 billion in increased trade. But these agreements take time. And also, in judging from experiences, India is also a challenging negotiating partner. So in the meantime, I think this is so important. We have these concrete actions like the webinar today to really bring the Indian market closer to you, to the entrepreneurs, because really the bulk of the growth in the coming years will come from Asia and especially India. And we as chambers want to make sure European business is ready and able to seize those opportunities. So you will excuse my portunhol, but muito obrigado pela sua atenção e boa tarde.
Thank you very much, Dominic, for your closing remarks. If possible, now there's a question here. So on the fact that to Dominic, so how do you see the actual pandemic context in India, and if you think will impact on foreign investment in the country?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think the pandemic is certainly having a real impact on our economic relations with India. I mean, as I said initially, I think first and foremost Europe, and I think it has been mentioned a bit before, Europe needs to present itself and is presenting itself, I think, as a reliable partner for India in these tough times, and we need to be there to help our Indian friends in this really tough situation. And if you've been following some of the statements and some of the aid already provided by the member states and coordinated, of course, by the European Commission, and this is an important signal we need to send, I think, as Europe, that we stand side by side with our Indian friends in these tough times. But at the same time, of course, the pandemic is accelerating many of the trends we've been seeing, and that will greatly impact the way our economy will function in the future, and where a lot of opportunities will be created with India. The digitalization, the green economy is something that in our economic recovery here in Europe are, let's say, one of the key priorities. So that will also open, let's say, in a post-pandemic context, a lot of doors for our cooperation. And this is precisely where this summit will also come in, not only to showcase our cooperation, our friendship with India, but also to see what kind of avenues we can embark in the future to really make sure we make the most out of this economic partnership that is already growing, but I think where we haven't yet reached the full potential.
Okay, many thanks, Dominic, for your input. I'm inviting all the speakers now here. So let me thank you all for your inputs, for your presentations, and for all the information that you shared. So to the audience, just one message. I invite you really to contact all the experts, use and try the India Readiness Kit, consult the IP expert, and as Pedro Pinto rightly said, also contact your local chamber if you're willing to enter the Indian market and establish a long-term internationalization strategy. As a final word, I want to thank you really our host today, the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, for organizing with us such a rich session and a very informative session. So thank you very much, and thank you to the audience for joining us. And I'll say ate logo.